Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Music Den. I'm, of course, your host, Armando Venditti. Hoping you guys are having a wonderful day. We want to welcome you all back to Close But No Cigar Part 2. This is where we take a look at albums that, if it wasn't for that one track, that one blasted track, the album would be perfect. I want to welcome back to the show, Mr. Jim Bricker. How's it going, Jim?
I'm doing quite well, Armando. Thanks for having me back on.
Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. And Mr. Ken Cheshire,
Morning, guys. Good to see you.
good to be seen. Good to see you too. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we've each picked an additional 5 albums that we're going to talk about. That again, if it wasn't for that one bloody track, it would be a perfect album. All right, so I'm going to go with what I see on my screen, and we're going to go with Ken to go first.
1973. Um, Billy Joel, Piano Man.
Okay,
I might get some flack for this, but that's okay.
I was going to say
Um,
those fighting words.
I know. One thing I like about this album, it's got what I consider epic songs, just big. We got Ballad of Billy the Kid and Captain Jack, especially. They're just larger than life, usually tell a story. It reminds me of the early works of Elton John, uh, where on the first 3 albums that he just had these big, what I consider big epic songs. I love Traveling Player, You're My Home, again, Ballad of Billy the Kid and Captain Jack. The only one that I'm not wild about, and it's not the worst song in the world by far, but what just doesn't do me is Ain't No Crime. I don't know why. There's just
Hmm.
something about it that just um, we've used the term pedestrian. It just seems a little bit common, a little bit pedestrian. Um, it's just such a classic album, even without the um, gem of a title track. But I don't always skip Ain't No Crime, but yeah, sometimes I do. So otherwise a perfect album for me.
So
Billy Joel, Piano Man.
pretty much depending on how you're feeling on the day you listen to
Yeah,
it, other days you don't. I get it.
absolutely.
I get it.
Absolutely.
All right. Interesting choice. Okay. All right. The man of the hour, Jim.
I'm still trying to get over Ken's choice there. So I'm gonna needle you, my friend, just a little bit. So how do you compare Ain't No Crime, which is in the middle of side one, to If I Only Had the Words to Tell You on the middle of side two?
It's not my favorite song, but it's okay.
All right. Okay.
It's just the way some songs just strike. There was something on one of our 31 Perfect albums, on one of the Tears for Fears album, that Armando said it just was going great and it just came to kind of a screeching halt. You know, uh it
you mean I
everybody
choose
loves a
you?
happy ending. Um
Oh, no,
I
no,
can't
no.
remember, or
Okay, no,
whatever
I
that was.
think I know what you're talking about. Go, okay.
Yeah. But
Okay.
anyway, this album's going along great. You're bopping to it, and that one song comes on. It's just like you kind of lose your
Your
you just lose
momentum.
a little bit of steam, momentum. But then
Mojo.
luckily it picks up again after that. So,
Hmm.
Okay.
and like Mondo says, it kind of depends on the day and how it hits me. But I have no problem with if I only had the words.
Okay. All right.
Okay, all right, that's what we're here for. Comment and challenge. That's fine.
Okay. All right.
I guess I had to throw that out there as a sort of preemptive challenge because I have a feeling I'm going to get challenged on this next one. um, which not only is from a different Billy Joel album,
Oh,
but it happens to be the Billy Joel album that Ken selected as a perfect album. Uh, so yes, we are talking about Turnstiles, the utterly fantastic album from 1976, except for that one frickin' song to me, which is All You Want to Do Is Dance from side one. Um, I think the thing that irks me the most about this song is the kind of quasi Cal-Mex arrangement of the percussion and some of the keyboard effects on there. Um, and plus the song, like thematically and harmonically, melodically, it just doesn't stand up to the rest of the album. I mean, again, sort of comparing to what's on this album, it's like, Say Goodbye to Hollywood, Summer Highland Falls, New York State of Mind, James, which is a sleeper of a song. Totally love that. Angry Young Man, I've Loved These Days, Miami 2017. I mean, those are all like A plus Billy Joel tunes. And then there's just got this one that's kind of snuck into side one. Um, I don't know. I just don't know what it is about this. It just seems like a real big
Yeah.
swing and a miss, which, Billy Joel's albums usually have a big swing or a miss on there for uh, for at least a couple of tunes.
yeah.
Um, but Turnstiles is the one to me that is, well, Turnstiles and The Stranger are the ones that are closest to perfection for me. Um, I think I did finally find a way to blame this song on something. I don't know if folks knew this, but um, there was a previous attempt to record this album before Billy Joel kind of grabbed the producer's reins. And that was at Caribou Ranch in Colorado.
Okay. Yeah.
And in fact, the session musicians that they had on this were Nigel Olsson and Dee Murray from Elton John's band,
Okay. Wow.
and the producer of Chicago, James Guercio. So,
Where's yeah. Okay.
um,
That's
That's interesting.
and Billy was just not happy with the results. And it's like, fine, I'm going to take this all and do it all myself with my touring band. And so that's how it got that fantastic sound out of this record. So I know you've asked before. It's like, why didn't Billy Joel produce more of his own? Maybe this was just, you know, uh, urgency that got him, and maybe it
possible.
was just he didn't like it
Yeah, I
himself. But
wasn't aware of that story. Yeah.
yeah,
Okay. Explains a
uh,
lot.
the yes, that big encyclopedia in the sky, Wikipedia, told me this was true, so I'm running with it. But yeah, all that to say, Turnstiles, so close to me.
All right. You both convinced me. I'm gonna go on Amazon and pick up those five classic album series on Billy Joel because I've seen them online and they carry, they contain the albums like Turnstiles, etc. So I'm going to invest the money and dive into Billy Joel, like, get my swimming trunks on and take a swim into Billy Joel territory. And yeah, no, what
We
you
might
told
even
me,
have to have a whole episode on Billy Joel.
There you go.
there is a novel idea. Yes, of course.
Ha
Um,
Well,
it's
Jim, I think that's a fair call.
Do you?
It's
okay, guys,
it's
like,
definitely not my favorite song on the album, but I can see it.
All
but
right.
but like we
I,
said in other episodes, I mean, there are albums with like that you can listen to. And depending on the day, there are songs that, okay, you'll listen to it and get through it. And there are other days where you just want to lift the needle off the record and move it over to the next track. Or,
oh, sure.
and for
Yeah.
me, and I have one of those albums for me. This is what kept this album off the 31 Perfect Albums list for me was A Night at the Opera, the track Good Company on
Oh,
side two. Like, I mean, it's a great song, and I know that Brian May did all the the instrumentation on his guitar, like, with different tunings, etc. But there are times when I just don't want to hear that song, and that it, and there are times, okay, I'll listen to it and it'll go right through the Bohemian Rhapsody, but everyone goes through those, right? Everyone has an album in their collection that it's just there's one track that doesn't do it for them, you know.
Yep.
And we must continue. My first pick on my list, continuing in the pop vein, we are looking at Madonna with Like a Prayer from 1989. Um, from a pop standpoint, this album is a very strong album. The hits on there, the title track, Express Yourself, love the Shep Pettibone remix on this track. Cherish, Oh Father, Keep It Together, other songs, Till Death Do Us Part, Promise to Try, which ends up side one. You also have Dear Jessie, second track on side two, which was a British single, which to me is my favorite track on the album because it is very British. It's basically a lullaby done in 3/4 time. Um, and It is beautiful. That one track. That is my favorite Madonna track of all time. But the one track on this album that I cannot stomach is Love Song, which is track three. It was a
Hmm.
collaboration with Prince and recorded at Paisley Park. He obviously did all the instrumentation, most of the background vocals. This song just stands out a like a boil. I'm sorry. It does nothing for me. I cannot. Ugh. I didn't like it when I first heard it, and over the years, it's just like, oh my God, like, you could have done something better. I'm sorry.
Hmm.
So that's my first choice. Madonna Like a Prayer with the Love Song.
So I haven't listened to Like a Prayer in like decades, but I
Yeah.
know that Cherish is a great pop song.
Cherish.
I
Yeah.
think it's utterly fantastic. But I could have swore I would have put money on the table that you were going to pick Act of Contrition as the stinker.
No, I think that that's a good outro. Dealing with the fact
Okay.
of dealing with, due to the fact of, like a prayer with the religious overtones and all that kind of, and like that kind of theme, I thought that Act of Contrition was a good sort of outro for the album. And
Hmm.
performing on this album, you had like musicians like Guy Pratt, who would go on to, was working with Pink Floyd at the time, like doing
Hmm.
session work for her. So I mean, you had a, this album in the pop realm was a fantastic pop album, is a fantastic pop album. It was strong, a live instrumentation throughout the entire album, with the one exception of Love Song. Dear Jesse, if you listen to Dear Jesse, the second track on side two, it is a beautiful song. It's a lullaby to your child, you know. And the inspiration for that one was Patrick Leonard had to go pick up his son from daycare and he had to bring him to the studio because they were recording and he was late. And Madonna got mad at him because he was late. But then she realized actually it was his daughter. So she started talking with his daughter and they got along and he showed her these lyrics and she liked it. So she made a couple of changes. They recorded it. It was just like, very spontaneous in that respect. So um, very very different from the rest of the material on the album, but it fits perfectly. So it's just that one track love song. I just cannot stand it. I'm like, it's Prince at his worst, in my very
Hmm.
opinion. But
Okay.
all right. And as I see on my screen, back down to Ken.
Okay. Senior year of high school, breakout album from Blondie, Parallel Lines. Uh, just a just a cracking album, you know. I mean, it opens with hanging on the telephone one way or another. Picture this. I mean, another real strong opener.
Mm.
Um, most of the other songs are iconic too, as far as I'm concerned. This is my favorite overall Blondie album. And as usual, my least favorite song on the album is the one that was the big single, Heart of Glass. No, it's too clubby. It's too disco.
Too clubby.
Uh, I I really do appreciate the quality of the recording and the arrangement and all of that, but it just doesn't have the staying power as the rest of the album does. It just doesn't have that new wave feel. Um, I understand why it's such a big hit and why it's still popular today. Um, all of the remixes I've ever heard are very creative and I think good for their purpose. Heart of Glass, no, I'm yeah, no more for me.
Okay.
Rest of the album, all the thumbs, and I'll borrow a couple of other thumbs um, up for that, but just no, no.
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
All right, all right.
I'm just wondering if there's any other disco songs out there that people can name that have sections in seven.
Hmm. I can't.
Not off the top of my head, but
Yeah, I can't either. I mean, I I get what you're saying about the disco-ness of it.
yeah,
I think for me though, there's just enough sort of new wavery and uniqueness, like that whole section in seven, that just really kind of makes it something different and fun to listen to. Um,
I mean, like the breakdown
sure.
section.
Excuse me?
Is there a breakdown section that I'm thinking about in that song? Like instrumentation?
Well, it's geez, how to describe it.
I
So it's
think.
before they get into the dun, 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 dun,
Oh, okay,
dun.
okay, okay,
You know,
okay,
there's a whole section where it just they drop a beat off, and
okay.
it's
Yeah,
just, you know,
I get it.
seven crash,
yeah.
one, two, three,
It's
four,
seven.
five, six, seven crash. Yeah.
I get it. Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Well, that song apparently started out as a reggae um
Yes.
track, and
Really?
oh
Because
yeah,
because I hadn't heard that. The earliest version that I was aware of that that Numero, you know, did with their Blondie reissue series. It was always, I thought it was always called the disco song. And
no,
that
well,
was like the 1974 version.
according to I think it's Mike Chapman, the producer, he said that when it was brought to him, it was done in a reggae time,
Huh.
and
Can hear
he's
that.
like, no, 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 we got to make this more mainstream. We got, and everybody in their dog at this point was doing dance-oriented stuff. You had the Rolling Stones, you had Rod
Bless you. Yeah.
Stewart, and then the Queen would come in. But I
Yeah, I
mean,
had Kiss.
yes, we won't even go there. Anyways, but yeah, that's fine. I mean, yeah, it's not one of my favorite songs either. I mean,
Well, thank you, Jim. You just put that Kiss song in my brain. Oh
would it
crap!
help it
All
to
right.
would it make you feel better to know he wrote that in like 20 minutes on an acoustic guitar on his couch in New York City in his apartment? Like, it was that quick.
Doesn't
Strangely,
help.
no.
Doesn't help.
Okay. All right.
But Ken, my dear friend, let me give you the cure-all for any time you want to get a song out of your head. Just think of any one of Sting's Police songs, especially like, Message in a Bottle, Walking on the Moon. That will erase whatever is going on in your head
Or
and
Mother.
replace it with something. No, I said Sting. I said
Oh,
Sting's
sorry.
Police
Okay, okay.
songs.
I thought you said
Don't,
police. Okay,
I
yeah.
was, no. Okay, all right. Don't.
Yeah.
Okay. Point
Okay.
made. Point made. Okay.
Point made. Point
Okay.
made.
Okay.
Hi,
Cool.
everyone. I'm feeling cantankerous, can't you tell?
Yeah, yeah, I can tell. All right. Over to you, Ken. Or Jim.
Jim.
Sorry. It's one of those
Okay,
days, guys.
I'll
Jim, what
go.
are you?
All right. So my second pick for today, I'm not repeating artists that we did in the first round, and I'm going chronologically. Why I felt I needed to say that, I don't know, but that's just the fact. 1980.
Hmm.
We are going with an album that is seen by probably darn near everyone as a complete game changer in music, and probably the best album of 1980, if not the best album of the 1980s altogether. And but yet there's one in there that just doesn't make the cut for me, and I am talking about "Remain in Light" by Talking Heads. The song that doesn't work for me is essentially the one cut on the album that isn't really a song. It's stuck in the middle of side two. It's "Seen and Not Seen," which is the kind of rap thing that David Byrne does. It's not even really a rap, it's just kind of a half monotone, seemingly stream of consciousness, spoken word um, dream of what if someone could make his face change over time by force of will. It's an interesting track from the standpoint of like what's happening with the music in the background, which is just basically this, one long loop. Um, and it's interesting, but it just feels a little out of place with everything else that's going on that album. Um, I mean, the album is interesting in that each song there's there's no there's no key change, and I think everything might even be in the same. Um, it's like always in A or always in C or something. There's just like no change to it whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
But this one just even stands out like more of a sore thumb because there's nothing happening melodically or harmonically either, which is kind of what this album needs. I mean, for all of the groovy stuff that's happening underneath, you need those vocal swells and changes to kind of keep me as a listener interested and engaged, or else it just sounds kind of flat and monotone all the way through. It grooves like hell. I mean, this album definitely has that going for it. But for me, the thing that keeps it from just being sheer perfection is that middle of side two track, "Seen and Not Seen."
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Moving on.
However, having said that, for the rest of that album is, it's almost like the Billy Joel thing. It's just like A plus all the way through.
Okay. All right. Moving on to my pick for number two. I do have one repeat on the list, and can't get around this one. It's Queen with The Miracle from 1989. I've always said that the Miracle to me was a cross between The Game and Hot Space, because you had, the heavier rock tracks like I Want It All and Was It All Worth It, um, mixed with the R&B stuff that they did, like, with, My Baby Does Me, and um, the intro track Party, the two-part track that goes into from Party goes into Khashoggi Ship. The one track for me that does not work on The Miracle is Rain Must Fall. It is on side two, track two. It is just, it's pop, it's lightweight, it's not interesting at all for me, even when I was first listening to the album. And as much as I love Queen, this was always sort of like, again, falling off the cliff. You got good momentum going on with the album. All of side one for me is good. Side two starts off with Breakthrough, which was the second single, Roger Taylor composition. And then it's just Rain Must Fall comes in, and it's like, no, it's just it doesn't work for me. But then you have songs like Scandal that came after that, and My Baby Does Me, and then you have Was It All Worth It, which is, in my opinion, balls against the wall rock. It's just heavy. It's very very orchestral in certain spots. Um, a blistering track, but Rain Must Fall was just like a no. I could never get behind that track,
Hmm.
and it's too poppy. You know, it's too lightweight for me, much like Delilah. But yeah, that's my choice for my
Hopefully
second.
it's thematically different than Delilah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just thematically, it's just, into every life some rain must fall. That's the theme of the song, right? And it's just very
Okay.
lightweight. It's like, okay. Harmonic guitars or not. I mean, that Ryan May does on the verses and choruses. It's just very lightweight and it
Hmm.
doesn't work. I mean, there were other songs that they recorded during these sessions. There was a B-side called Hang On In There, which was a B-side to I Want It All, which they could have put in. They could have put in the instrumental track Chinese Torture, which is all guitars, electric guitars, and uh, orchestral sections put in. That could have been an intro. That track is only like a minute 49 seconds. It could have been an intro track to the second side, but they chose to do that, and it just kills it for me. So yeah, that's my second choice. Queen the Miracle with Rain Must Fall. Ugh, couldn't do it.
Fair enough.
Couldn't do it. All right, down to Ken for your
Okay.
number three.
Skipping about 3 more years to 1982. Um, this is an album that gets a lot of flack uh, on Twitter specifically. Genesis Abacab. Um, on the Perfect 31 albums, I had Duke, their album Duke. This is the follow-up to that. Um, we still have we still have flavors of prog Genesis in some of these songs. And then we do have that Bill Collins, solo album feel of it too. Um, but especially No Reply at All is I just love that song. I just think it hops. It's instrumentally, it's fascinating. That bass line is just
Hmm.
absolutely amazing through that.
Hmm.
Um, but through Me and Sarah Jane, like it or not, especially I feel the old Genesis in that, in the way that it's particularly in the arrangement and the way it goes. I can when I'm specifically listening for it, I can get that feel of the pre and then there were 3 years. But
Hmm.
I love the title song, all those songs that I mentioned. Um, Man in the Corner is a nice ballad. Um, the one that just
I think I
when I
know where
first
you're
listened to
going.
it, it's like, what the heck? Who done it?
I knew it.
Yep.
And to me, it's very obvious. On most of these
I knew
albums,
it.
my one song pick are just nah, but no, this is just what the heck. This sounds like something that they recorded just in the studio just for fun, and that it would have made a good B-side for some single, just so people would make sure they played the A side. But no, I can't do it. I can't do it. I mean, even Keep It Dark and Dodo Lurker are at least interesting. They're not my favorites on the album, but it's like, no, that's cool. I can let it go. Listen to it every single time, but not Who Done It. You know, I'll be bopping to the album, and then that song comes on, and it just shocks me back into reality. Oh, mercy. Yeah. Who done it? I
When
want to
you
say why done it.
when you picked Genesis and Abacab, I'm like, I know where he's going with this. I knew
It's an
it.
obvious pick.
Yeah.
It's
I
so
knew
obvious.
it. I knew it. And you know what? I was going to pick that myself, but I didn't do it. Like, and that was going to be the one track, but I didn't do it. I
Of,
thought, nah,
of,
you know what?
of all the talk of this album on social media that I've been involved in, there has been a single person that says they like that song. I'm sure there are. I'm sure there's somebody, but I haven't met them. Even as of this morning, there was someone that poo-pooed this album in a conversation that Jim started.
It's all my fault. Yep.
It's all your
I will
humanity.
say, I've said this before about Amicab. Just a little side note, little tangent. Big surprise. Mini tangent here. When Amicab came out in 81, that album was slamming. It was all over the place. It was all over FM radio. When I think about albums that came out in 81, for me, you think of For Those About to Rock, We Salute You, AC/DC. You think of Foreigner 4. You think of Abacab. Like it's one of those albums that is cemented in your mind as one of the most popular albums of that year. And I will say this, that to me, Abacab was a necessary step for Genesis to take in terms of what they were doing, because I tend to think that if they didn't take a bit of a left turn with doing Abacab, I think they would have been stuck in a rut after doing Duke. And I think that this was a necessary, not, I don't want to say necessary evil, but necessary step for them to take. And people do, poo-poo that album in terms of, the style of it, the sound. But how can you blame a band for wanting to change, wanting to do something different?
Mhm.
You really can't. So
Well, it was a logical step between Duke and what came immediately after this, the Genesis album.
Shapes. Yeah.
Shapes.
Shapes, yeah.
That
Yeah.
was where they went right into pop. They
That's
dove
right.
head first. And then you put on the trunks. They just dove in, right? They went skinny dipping and and just did what they did. And for better or worse, I mean, yeah, I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying.
Well, let me extend the tangent if I may.
Go for it.
Uh, Probably a couple years ago, I listened to Abacab for the first time in forever, just purposely sit down, listen to the whole thing. And when Who Done It came on, I just let it go. And at the end of it, I'm like, wow, that actually worked. I think there's a part of me that, you know, when we're listening to albums that we kind of grew up with, we all have these biases that kind of come into it. Certainly, if something has been overplayed, we have a bias against it. For something that's like, yeah, I like this when no one else did, we have that sort of bias toward that. And I think just something about listening to Who Done It with, fresh ears helped just kind of give me a deeper appreciation for the fact that Genesis, was really accomplishing their core mission with that album, which is if it sounds like something that we would have recorded before, we don't want anything to do with it.
I get what you're saying. Yeah.
So it kind of just the fact that it is completely unlike anything else in their catalog gives me just a little bit more appreciation. But I also still feel fine in skipping it because I kind of find I really have to be in that mood um, for it. I think there's a lot of for me. I think if I had to program Abacab just as a single album, I would have started off side two with the instrumental Nami Nanu, which was the B side to Keep It Dark in the
Yeah.
UK. Have it just bleed right into Dodo Lurker, and then after Lurker go into Man on the Corner, and then the rest of the album kind of proceeds as there. But it's interesting just kind of thinking about it as we're talking about it. The solo tracks, Rutherford did Like It or Not. Phil wrote Man on the Corner. Banks wrote Me and Sarah Jane. Those are the three tracks on there that kind of sound like standard Genesis tunes. Like I could hear those maybe living on Duke and then there were three, but it's the
Yeah.
ones that they worked on collectively that sound like they're pushing the boundaries forward. And, Whodunit falls into that category.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not being an apologist of the song, and I certainly know that it is the weakest link on that album, but I would just poke people to kind of say, okay, give it a fresh listen and see within the context if it doesn't stand up a little better than maybe your memory or biases hold towards it.
All right.
Harumph.
All right. Now back to our regular schedule program, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes, rant over.
Yes. Jim, your next pick?
My next pick, speaking of Genesis, we are going to go with an album from one of the founding members of Genesis. So we're going with Peter Gabriel's 1980 album. Um, you may know it as Peter Gabriel. You may know it as Peter Gabriel 3. You may know it as Melt, but it's that one that I'm talking about. And, all of these albums that we're talking about, even though I feel like they need to emphasize they're in our Close But No Cigar category, but let's emphasize close, that these albums are just fantastic on their own. They're just not perfect.
Mm-hmm.
So remember, this is all kind of, we did our 31 perfect albums. These are the ones on the cutting room floor because they had one track that didn't quite make the cut. But, they're all fantastic albums. And Peter Gabriel 3 definitely falls in that category. And for me, the one track that sort of immediately banished this to the cutting room floor is the very short instrumental called Start. Start is a mostly saxophone laden track. It's got, keyboards and synth bass, and it's just got this saxophone melody, and it sort of immediately segues into I Don't Remember on side one. At least I think I have let me check my notes, make sure I'm right. Yeah, Start goes immediately into I Don't Remember.
Mm-hmm.
And it just feels completely out of place on the record. I mean, there's no other track on this album that has, this kind of, you know, saxophone melodic thing happening to it. The the key change that it needs to make to get from Start into I Don't Remember is like completely jarring. And it just doesn't hold up to what the rest of the record is doing with this really dark, introspective, kind of paranoid laden, lyrics throughout. It's just almost like, wow, this is like a happy Peter. It sounds like a happy Peter Gabriel leftover from the first album, frankly. And it just doesn't fit in with what the whole of Peter Gabriel 3 is to me. And so therefore it just took the whole album out of the running for me. As strong as everything else is, and Games Without Frontiers, Intruder, um, No Self Control. I mean, those are all A plus 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 Peter Gabriel tracks, and it's a shame that Start was on there just to kind of ruin the vibe,
Okay.
in my opinion.
Okay, you
Jim,
say you feel that it is more in the style of one of the earlier albums.
Yeah,
Do you think it would, do you think you would like it better if it had been on one of the earlier albums?
probably. I mean, it's not that it's bad. It just kind of takes what's happening with 3
Yeah,
and just
yeah,
completely ruins the
yeah,
vibe.
yeah.
Yeah, so like if this were, you know, either appended somewhere else on one of those first two albums, or melodically it was, stretched and
Mhm.
changed, added to it something, I think it would be fine, but it just,
It just
you
doesn't
know,
fit on this one.
right.
Yeah. Okay. Well, and we said that about a lot of these. It just it breaks the momentum. It just doesn't feel
Yeah.
like it really belongs or whatever.
Yep.
It just doesn't fit. Yeah,
Yep.
makes perfect sense. But you say it still feels like a Gabriel song, though.
Yes.
Okay.
Certainly because it's got those, strong synth patches to it, and what's happening, harmonically it sounds like Peter Gabriel, but it just doesn't sound like it's this Peter Gabriel.
Okay.
Fair
Cool.
enough. Fair enough.
Yeah.
All right then.
All right. Now, my next choice, where this is where the Canadian content comes in, or the Canadian contingent, I should say, comes in. Where I'm talking about Dalbello with her 1987 release She. Um, the one track on this album, there are 10 tracks on this album. She's had with this album, she had contributions from Bernard Edwards on bass, David Gilmour on guitar, um, and she worked her ass off on this album. But the one track that does not work for me is called Body and Soul. It's on side two, track two. If you know of this album, she recorded this album on her own, without letting Capitol Records know what she was doing, because they wanted her to work with a real producer, quote unquote, a male producer, quote unquote, because they thought that she could not produce her own material or write her own material. So she did demos for this album in secret, and she made up a name and said she's working with this producer. They heard the tracks and said, "Oh, continue. This is wonderful. Keep doing it." So she continued it and she released it. It wasn't until it was released that Capitol Records found out that she produced the entire album herself. Heavy album, songs like Black on Black, Baby Doll, Black on Black was featured in uh, uh, 9.5 Weeks as part of the soundtrack. Um, Heavy album, songs like Tango, which features Bernard Edwards on bass, and Imagination, another fantastic track. Immaculate Eyes, which features David Gilmour on guitar, fantastic guitar solo. Body and Soul is just the one track that musically doesn't fit. Light drumming instrumentation on it. Just it's I cringe when I hear it. I cannot listen to this track. I can't get
Hmm.
into it at all. It does not fit musically with what's going on the album. She has heavy drumming on this album, heavy bass, mega bass playing on this album in terms of just potency and just with all the arrangements on this album, the body and soul does not fit for me. She should have stuck with maybe put another track in there and just kept it, or I kept it to 9 songs, but body and soul for me does not work. So
So, as someone who is ignorant to Dalbello, is this Body and Soul the jazz standard? Is it that old track? No. Okay.
no, it's an original
Really?
composition. The drums are lightweight. The keyboards are fine, but it's bathed in keyboards, and as talented as she is in terms of doing uh different octaves in terms of her singing range, it just
Hmm.
doesn't work. She hits these high notes that it's like nails on a effing chalkboard. I can't stand it. And I had the cassette of this and I have it on CD, but whenever I had the cassette or listened to it, I always, okay, fast forward, skip it. I couldn't stand it. And
Hmm.
but the rest of the album is fantastic. And you really should listen to it. You can stream it on YouTube, guys.
Yeah.
But it's just not. Ooh, God. It's that cringe moment on the album for me. Can't stand it.
So it sounds like that this isn't like a track that would work well on a different Del Bello album. It's just bad.
No, this track would be the inspiration for my constipation.
All
Really.
right then.
That's how bad it is for me. Um, and I can't put it in much more plainer than that, guys. I'm very polite way too, but it
Sure.
doesn't work. It does not work for me.
Okay.
So, all right, down to Ken.
Jumping ahead 10 years.
Okay.
Little background. Neil Finn came to my attention when he joined Split Ends, a New Zealand band that was started by his brother Tim Finn. Um, Very alternative. But when Neil Finn joined the band playing guitar, um, especially with his song contributions, um, they started taking on a more they started getting more attention uh, worldwide. Um, One Step Ahead in particular. But other than that, his brother Tim, the founder, did most of the songwriting. So jumping ahead to 1991, um, after the Split In, Split Up, Neil Finn formed Crowded House. Crowded House first album was one of my favorites on the 35 perfect 31 perfect albums. Jumping ahead of this to their third album, Woodface. On this is the only album of Crowded House that older brother Tim Finn joined Crowded House. So now we got Neil and Tim working together again. The good news is this makes for some great harmonies, vocal harmonies. They vocally the two work very, very well together. Tim Finn is got a real knack for uh, creating wonderful harmonies above Neil Finn's melodies. So, and it opened with the album opens Woodface is the album. The album opens with Chocolate Cake, which is a really good opener. Um, However, the song did not do well in the US. It's theorized that it's because it criticizes United States and the culture.
That
And it
would do it.
does.
That
It
would do
does.
it.
It does.
Yep.
But then it's followed up with It's Only Natural, Fall at Your Feet, Tall Trees, Weather with You, these incredible songs
Killer
that
songs. Yeah.
killer songs that you take away one song and it's almost like a greatest hits album all by itself, as far as I'm concerned. Um, and there again, this is the only album which you have those wonderful vocal harmonies between both of them. Otherwise, on the other albums, um, it's just a single vocal line with Neil Finn for most of it. But there is one song on this album, and it's the song that's written by and sung. The lead vocals are by Tim Finn. It's called All I Ask. It's a beautiful song. And it's got wonderful strings behind it. It's very it has a 1950s feel to it, ballad. Um, it's reminiscent of a lot of Tim Finn's songs from Split Ends in the latter days, but it it doesn't go here. It feels like it should have been on a Tim Finn solo album, and with just that creative uh, the style of Neil Finn's work with Crowded House. Here again, this song for me um, really breaks the mood. It breaks the momentum. Um, it sounds like, well, I might as well have been listening to radio, and they go from, the Police to Maria Muldaur or something. It's just it's different. It's a
Okay.
beautiful song. It's a beautiful song, and it's well written, it's well recorded, but within this setting and this list of songs, it doesn't work for me. Um, it's not that it's a bad song, but here again, like we've said on these others, it doesn't belong here, or at least it feels like it doesn't. It would like us Here again, it would feel like a perfect song for a Tim Finn solo album, and his solo albums are quite good.
What you're basically saying is just misplaced.
It's To me, it is. It's like, okay, we need to let Tim contribute one of his solo songs to it, and that's what it feels like.
Hmm.
It's just like, okay,
Understandable.
we got to give him, got to let him do something. And of course, after this, and I don't know why, I haven't researched it, but Tim leaves the band, and then they come back, and it's just the three of them again. And and to me, they recapture that, the albums are solid after that. But this album stands out in their discography, and rightfully so. I think one of the reasons this album is so good is because of Tim Finn's other contributions. And this is lauded by many, many people as their favorite Crowded House album, Woodface. Um, yeah, there's just so many incredible songs.
Okay, now
And
I gotta go
even the
revisit that
one
one.
song by the drummer, Hester, Italian Plastic,
Yep.
is a little bit odd or whatever, but it still fits in for me
Oh,
with the Crowded House. Yeah,
it's
I
got
don't
that
mind that
sound.
song at all. Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
and it's got his sense of humor. So
Yeah,
it's a quirky little song, but if one is familiar with Crowded House and the personalities of each of the three members, um, it's like, yeah, that belongs here. Very good. Crowded House, Woodface. The song is All I Ask.
of
All I
course.
ask is that I can skip it.
Just by
Yeah.
that much. Okay. No, I
Just by
asked
that
you if I
much.
can skip it. Okay. Just by that much. No, well,
Yeah,
fair enough.
yeah,
Now I gotta go and check that out.
Oh, it's fantastic. The first three Crowded House albums to me are,
unbelievable.
Yeah, well,
they
I mean
they they are pretty peerless. Yeah.
the first album, with Don't Dream It's Over and something so strong. I mean, those tracks, those singles alone were just all over the place, like all over the radio and all over Much Music and MTV, I would imagine, when they
Sure.
came out. So yeah, no, that's good. All right. Interesting choice. Now I got to go check out that album. I've seen it
It,
in the
it's a
stores.
great album.
I've
It
seen
is.
the deluxe edition of Woodface in my local record store. I got to go pick it up, maybe. Yeah, maybe I'll go pick it up. You know me. Anyways, okay, over to Jim for your next one.
Okay. I am still sticking with a Genesis E kind of theme.
Okay.
Changing lead singers though, and I'm moving over to Phil Collins to his 1981 debut, Face Value. Now, yeah, this was the album that sort of got me not only into Phil, but also into Genesis as well at the age of 16.
Okay.
Um, the leap from Face Value to Abacab was a pretty small leap. And then, working backwards, I got into the whole Genesis catalog. And to me, Face Value is still Phil Collins' best album. I think it's got the
I agree.
most um it's
I would agree.
genuine. It's not contrived. Um, it's got a lot of um, heart and soul in it. He's not manufacturing emotions. I mean, obviously, was written during the time of his separation and divorce from his first wife. So there's a lot of rawness to this record, and there's also a lot of diversity. I mean, you know, side one alone, In the Air Tonight, This Must Be Love, the the Motownification of Behind the Lines, which is
It's brilliant.
awesome.
It's brilliant.
Um,
Hmm.
Roof is Leaking, Droned, Hand in Hand. I mean, that's just such a wildly diverse side one, but it's just perfect. And I wish the whole album kind of hung out that way. And it kind of does until you get kind of deeper into side two for me. And everything sort of falls apart with the song I'm Not Moving, which is the fourth song of the sixth on side two. It's it's just kind of flat and lifeless to me. It's got, you know, Phil doing this falsetto voice through the majority of it. It's got these weird kind of keyboard parts that um, don't really add anything to me. And much like the way Start does with Peter Gabriel 3, I'm Not Moving just kind of takes me out of the experience of the album. It's just so different thematically and musically. It just kind of throws me as the listener for a loop, and it kind of ruins the mood, if you will. It's not a bad song, but it's just kind of, like I was saying, flat and lifeless, and just doesn't work with everything else that's there, unfortunately.
Just lays
Um,
there.
yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
And from there, the rest of the album again is fantastic. If Leaving Me Is Easy is a fantastic ballad, and his cover of Tomorrow Never Knows, I think it's fine. I don't have a problem with it. It's not, heretical like a lot of people seem to think it is, and sort of like the beginning of, Phil Collins' domination of the world and he takes over everything. It's like, no, it just feels like someone who really wanted to pay tribute to that music that meant so much to him. And he does it, to me, much better than he did with You Can't Hurry Love on the subsequent album.
Yeah,
Um,
I know. I hear what you're saying.
yeah.
I agree.
So yeah, this was a not it wasn't hard for me to wrestle with to leave it off the 31 Perfect albums, because it's just so obvious that I'm Not Moving just kind of ruins the whole vibe. But I tell you, the strength of that side one,
Yes.
it's just A
Yes.
plus plus plus. I mean, if the whole album could have just been that, it would have been amazing. And for, people who, can't stand Phil Collins, I'd say, well, probably what you can't stand is the musician that Phil Collins became, where he became just ubiquitous over the rest of the whole decade. We talked about this when we were talking about 1985.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
uh, but yeah, this first side of Face Value is just absolutely perfect.
Just to add on to what you're saying, and then we'll carry on. I think most people out there would say there is a definite downgrade from face value down to no jacket required. I can't even say the name. There's a definite downgrade. I mean, the quality of the music is just not there on No Jacket Required. I'm sorry. So Studio aside and Take Me Home aside, they have their moments, but if there was no comparison from face value to No Jacket Required. I mean, in terms of the quality of music that he wrote and just the production overall. So there's no
Yeah,
contest there. But no, I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying. And it follows with what we're talking about. There are songs that at times you can sit there and listen to and go through, and the other times you just want to skip it. Right. And this is one of those times where you just want to skip it, I guess. Right. So
yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's a darn shame because, like I said, the rest of the album is just
oh yeah,
it's just so good.
that album is massive. I mean, in terms of even the the sequence of tracks. I mean, like side one alone, please. No,
Yeah,
no contest. No contest.
that's what I'm saying. That's exactly what I'm saying.
I know. I know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Carrying on. Now, moving along here. My next choice, ladies and gentlemen, I'm gonna get flack for this one. Fleetwood Mac with Rumors. Mega selling album, fantastic. If for that one song, I don't want to know. It's just,
Really?
yeah, it's the one outlier for me. The I don't know. I don't want to say I don't know. I don't it's just not there for me. I think the story goes, according to Stevie Nicks, was that they recorded Silver Springs and they were going to put that on the album. And when they were sequencing the album, Mick Fleetwood took her outside for a smoke and a chat and said, you know what, we're not going to put Silver Springs on the album because it doesn't fit with the rest of the music that's on the album. We're going to put I Don't Want to Know. And she's like, okay, well, and she said, I Don't Want to Know anyway. It's my song. I like that one too. You should have stuck with it. You should have kept Silver Springs on the album, not tack it on these reissues from 2012 and 2015 and 2016 and
Mhm.
2017. You should have kept it on the original running track order. And that album, as good as it is, it would have been, in my eyes, perfection. Plain and simple. But that is just my opinion. I mean, Silver Springs obviously would go on to be released as a standalone single and be a monster hit for her and the band, but you're messing with perfection. Do you know what I mean? You are messing with perfection. What are you doing? You could have kept it on and the rest would have been history, as they say. But
Hmm.
I just think
Did
that, so go ahead.
Sorry, Armando, did you know did they try to do like all sorts of different sequences with the album and just couldn't make it work with like Silver Spring was like the square peg they were trying to put into a round hole or
That part, I don't know. Because I mean, I don't know if they try to do, multiple sequencing with the album to see what would work. Because it fit in with what was going on with like Never Going Back Again, you know, even, secondhand news. I mean, it would have fit in perfectly. It would have fit in perfectly. I mean, even Oh Daddy, you know what I mean? Like it would have fit in with those songs. I do not know why, like they decided to chuck it for I Don't Want to Know, but for me, it's the standout that does not work for me. I'm gonna get flack, and I'm used to it. I've been getting flack on this channel for a while now, but it is what it is. So that is my choice for number four.
Fair enough.
yeah.
Fair enough.
And I saw your eyebrows go up there, Jim. I was like, oh, really? I was like,
Yeah, I mean, I guess I didn't expect that song from Rumors. I would usually think Oh Daddy is the one that's kind of.
no, I've always loved Christine McVie's voice. To me, her voice
Sure.
was like butter. And she was always a little side note. To me, and I'm gonna get flack for this too, but the difference between Stevie Nicks and Christine McVie, with Christine McVie, there was always an air of sophistication with her, an air of
Yep.
grace and sophistication and elegance,
Hmm.
the way she presented herself. Do you know what I mean? Which,
Yeah.
you know, obviously I don't know Stevie Nicks personally. I'm not even going to go there, but her compositions to me, Christine McVie's, there was always that air, again, air of elegance and sophistication, and they just flowed very beautifully and naturally. And it's no wonder that she and Lindsey Buckingham did an album together, which, guys, if you want to check that album out, it's fantastic. Check it out.
Yeah.
It's a lost gem. You really should check it out. But
Yeah.
no, it's just my opinion. I mean, yeah, I don't want to know. I don't want to know about that song. I just don't want to know. No pun intended, but anyways, it's my choice. So, all right, Ken, back down to
Okay.
you as I see in my
For,
screen here.
for my final of this video, I'm gonna go with Snow Patrol. The year's 2008. The album is 100 Million Suns. This was my first Snow Patrol album. It's one of the rare examples of a 21st century band that I've really gotten into. I admire you guys because I feel that your appreciation and taste in music is often seems much wider than mine. And I
Oh,
salute you two for that. But anyway, Snow Patrol. To me, this is another one where every single song hits just right as far as the songs themselves, as far as the sequencing of the album. You know, if there's a rocket timey to it, crack the shutters, take back this city. It's just like, holy cow. And lifeboats. It's perfect all the way through until I get to the very last song. It's called The Lightning Strike. It is it is technically a 16-minute, 18-second suite of songs, a little medley. Um, like a lot of their stuff, there is a strong element of minimalism in the music as far as the instrumentation and the song structure, which doesn't bother me at all on the other songs in the sound that do that. But this one, it just kind of seems to, okay, we've got all these little snippets, let's just put them all together. And whereas that worked with the Beatles on Abbey Road, for me, it just doesn't work here. Um, I find that it's just maybe if they cut it in half, it would have been much better to me, but it's just a little bit too long. Um, I listened to it again last night, and it's like, okay, well, maybe once you get into about 3 minutes, it's not quite so bad. But then from there on, you get a little comfortable with it, and it starts changing, and it's like,
Mm.
no, it's still not my favorite. So I love this album. I listen to it frequently. I just stop it on this
Hmm.
just before this last track.
okay.
I highly recommend the rest of the album. It's just so good. And uh Snow Patrol they have a new album coming out very, very soon. I'm really looking forward to it.
I'm gonna dive into that.
Their last album from a couple of years ago is fantastic to me. Um they get a lot of comparison to Coldplay and other bands like that.
No, no, I
I
hear what you're saying, but
I I can see the comparison, but at the same time, oh, this is so much better for me. For me, this is so much better than Coldplay. You know, after that first Coldplay song, it's like, again, you're using the same rhythmic theme again. Yeah, no Coldplay for me, but I'll take Snow Patrol any day of the week. And this album in particular.
minus the one song.
100 Million Suns from 2008.
Perfect. I gotta check out some Snow Patrol.
Yeah,
Almost perfect.
yes, almost perfect.
I
It's on
sit
YouTube.
corrected.
All
Well, I
these
can't.
albums, people, are on YouTube. Take a listen.
Well, I can't
Same with
stand to say
Spotify
sit
and
there.
Apple Music. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. All right, the man of the hour, Jim.
Numero cinco. Um,
See,
back to yes, back to 1984. Um, this one, wow, it pains me to put this album on this list. Um, Again, well, much like everything else we've been talking about, if it weren't for this one thing, it just would have had a solid bullet place in my 31 Perfect albums because this album is so good. Um, People first heard about this album from a single that was released in 1982. It was, I guess, a stopgap release or the whatever it is. It's one of the greatest singles ever put out. And this is the Pretenders back on the Chain Gang of side A, and My City Was Gone on side B. I mean, My City Was Gone on
Yeah.
side B.
Yeah.
I mean, at minimum, this should have been a double A side. But yeah, this is just one of the strongest singles, I think, ever. And these eventually found a home on an album, like I said, 1984. So 2 years later, the album is called Learning to Crawl. And this is, it kind of takes it matures the punk edge of the Pretenders' first album. And, like Chrissy says, I got a kid, I'm 33, baby. So there's a little mellowing that goes on there, but just to, again, back on the Chain Gang, My City Was Gone, and then the first single from the album, Middle of the Road, it's like these guys felt like they could do no wrong because all of this stuff is just like A plus 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 plus.
Mm-hmm.
It's just sonic perfection,
Mm-hmm.
and then so you're carrying on in the album Time the Avenger, again, another absolutely killer track, and then
I think I
it's
know
and
what's
then
coming.
it trips over itself. The album just completely trips over itself with Watching the Clothes. Um, which is basically, I mean, I get where Chrissy's coming from. You know, you're in the laundromat, you're watching the clothes go around, I
I can see where you're
lyrically
going with this. Okay.
lyrically it's very, very sparse. Musically, it's kind of comedic. And again, it just, like we're saying with a lot of the other songs, it just doesn't fit with the whole rest of the vibe that's going on this album. I mean, even Thumbelina, which is, it's still a great song to me. It's got that, kind of cool two-step thing going on, and it's probably something that she wrote for her child, um, or at least had that kind of mindset. You can sort of picture it going on, and it's still a fun song, and it kind of fits in with sort of the rest of the themes on the album, carries it off very well. Um, and then the cover, Thin Line Between Love and Hate, I Hurt You, 2,000 Miles, Show Me. I mean, all these other songs are just banger, 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 banger. And then, it's like I said, it trips over itself with Watching the Close. Um, it's a dang shame, but like everything else, this album is so fantastic that you can forgive the sin, if you will, of Watching the Close. Um, well worth a listen, and I just kind of shrug my shoulders whenever Watching the Close goes around, and I just say it's a dang shame because otherwise this album would be absolute perfection.
That
Learning to Crawl
chorus
by the
does stick into my
Pretenders.
head. That chorus
Yeah,
does stick in my head. Watching the clothes go round, watching the clothes.
Okay.
yeah,
All
it's
right.
annoying.
Okay.
I knew that's where you were going.
Did you now? Okay.
Oh yeah.
Armando, are you familiar with Learning to Crawl?
I'm familiar with Learning to Call. I never heard that one track, and I should check it out now. You guys have
Well, the
given
whole
me some work to do.
well the whole album is a complete monster. I mean,
Yeah, it is.
for
It is.
the yeah.
It is.
It's so close. It's so close. Oh, it pains me.
I mean, those two albums, Learning to Crawl and Get Close. I mean, back to back. I mean, come on. It's, in terms of the popularity of the band, and then they just sort of petered out near the end of the 80s, right? I mean, they released albums can, all through, into the 90s, etc. But I mean, those
Yeah.
two albums, Learning to Call and Get Close, it's just like, okay, like 1-2 punch in terms
Yeah.
of popularity. But
Yeah, absolutely.
all right, ladies and gentlemen, my last pick for 5 almost perfect albums that we're doing this for this segment of Close But No Cigar. I'm going to get a lot of shit for this one. Um, Dire
Black Cow.
Straits, no, Dire Straits, Brothers in Arms.
Talk to me.
Bring
Oh,
it.
Bring it. Bring it.
um, this is a fantastic album. If for that one song, Walk of Life. I'm sorry, side one, track two.
Respect.
Woohoo! Like, what the hell is that shit? I mean,
Respect.
I'm sorry. I I never liked it when it came out. I thought it was a weak track. Even at the age of 15, not even knowing much about Dire Straits, I always thought it was a weak track. My brother-in-law Mario had this on cassette, and he played the album for me in the car before I bought it. And listening to, So Far Away, okay, it starts off slow, builds a little bit, then you have Money for Nothing. And I came to realize, listening to the albums in the past few weeks, doing these episodes with Jim, that that was basically their MO. They never really started albums like with heavy songs, or they sort of just like, coasted in very gradually, right? In terms of the arrangements and stuff. But with Walk of Life, I just never got into this song. I never got into this song. And the controversy with that came up with Money for Nothing with the lyrics, I can deal with that. It was what it was. But um and even side two with, it is a strong album, with the exception of Walk of Life. I couldn't. And Jim, I remember Jim stating, his distaste for the the videos that came out for that track, and I just don't like the song. I don't like the song at all. I mean, it's just
Yeah.
not a good song for me.
Is it the keyboard riff? That keyboard
No,
riff?
the keyboard riff is the strongest part for me of that song. It's the whole, all right, the whole song overall. It just does
Okay.
not do it for me. Um, and yeah, I mean, oh, I can't. I just can't.
I-
Oh, no.
Oh,
No.
it's definitely not my favorite either.
Yeah.
And it
I
was
think
one
it's
of the hits. It was one of the singles.
Well, yeah.
I
no
mean,
accounting for taste.
on side one,
Oh,
you've
Got
got
that hook.
So Far
Got that
Away.
pop hook.
Like on side one, you've got So Far Away. You've got Money for Nothing. And then you've got also your latest trick, and Why Worry. Perfect. Boom, 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 boom. Perfect. If for that one pimple on the butt of humanity, that one track. That I mean, to me, that just sounds like they looked up some preset, keyboard sounds on a Casio, and just, oh, we'll use this, and to think that Omar Hakim is playing drums on this album, doing the drum tracks within what, 2 days? Boom, 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 done. Right? Because Terry
yeah.
Williams at this point, he felt he couldn't contribute properly to the album. So Mark Knopfler they got Omar Hakim in to do this. And those drum tracks were done in 2 days. Banger. Boom, boom. But that one song, it's just, why would you do that to Hakim? Why would you do that like, I'm sorry. I'm
Well,
sorry.
a lot of times that shuffle beat, that shuffle pattern of a song
Yeah.
is can easily be just feel lazy. Often it can feel
Yeah,
very lazy.
but that intro, woohoo, like, what is this shit? I mean, I'm sorry. It sounds so trivial. I mean, like an
Hmm.
afterthought, right? I don't understand it. And I always thought, even again, not even knowing Dire Straits fully at that point, right? I mean, I knew Twisting by the Pool and, listening to FM radio, but I always thought that that was a weak song. Even now getting into them more and listening to them more and understanding more of their compositions with, Telegraph Road and stuff like that, I always thought that Walk of Life was just, I'm sorry, couldn't do it.
Is
Yeah.
it any better on the live albums?
It's stronger because you have audience participation, right? And you have
Oh,
the
great. They do the woo-woos.
no, 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 they don't do the woohoo. No, they don't do that. It sounds like he's being goosed in the studio as he's recording a woohoo, like who's behind me kind of a thing. No, I don't like it. I just they do it stronger live,
Yeah,
right? Because they do extended sections and improv and stuff. But
Mhm.
no, the studio,
it's
forget
probably
it.
Sting goosed him. Sting did the goosing. Yeah.
Oh, who knows? Who knows? Who knows? I really,
Yeah,
ugh. I
I
mean,
see that.
he's such a prolific songwriter. He couldn't have written something else that they could have stuck in there uh, as an alternate. Like, I'm sorry. I
Well,
mean,
I think the arrangement is kind of where things completely fall apart for this song. Because it's just so,
whimsical.
over the top pop, arrangement. I mean, the song, the song itself is about a busker, and I think it's a
Yeah.
busker in the London subways. I mean that, and so if the song could have had that kind of root to it, it's like do something with the arrangements that kind of, even if it were a shuffle beat, just simulating some guy, playing on a, upturned, can on the, you know, in the subway floor or something. If they had stuck with that vibe, I think it would have been a much better song. But yeah, it just became so commercialized, and I talked about this on the Dire Straits video where the first video they did of this song was focused on a busker in the
I
London
remember that.
subway,
I remember
and
that.
then it got replaced at some point down the line by a sports video, by like an NFL highlight reel.
That's right. That's
And
right.
it's just
That's right.
like, how in the world does this even fit in with lyrically with the
So,
song?
so
It's a complete stretch.
to me, it was like, so you're saying that the theme of life is football? Like the meaning of life is football? Like, come on. You know what I mean? Like it didn't make any sense. I'm sure that was Warner Brothers saying, you know what, we need something here that's gonna sell this to the mainstream audience, and we need to do something now. So they just like slap something together in an edit bay over like 48 hours and just say, here you go. You know, went in on a Friday, came out on a Sunday, gave it to them by Monday, and by Tuesday it was circulated to the, stations like or music shows and stuff, like radio shows and stuff. It's like, no, I don't get it. Again, I've never liked that song. I thought it was always trite as an arrangement. That woohoo bullshit intro. I mean, I don't. Again, it sounds like someone came up by him and gave him a good goose, and he never
Mhm.
quite got over it. You know what I mean? It just doesn't
Well,
fit with
yeah.
what's on the
Two
album.
things. I think they did the sports video um to you if MTV is playing and someone's just not really paying attention, if they see football on the TV,
They
it's
look
gonna
up.
draw their attention
They look up.
because
Right?
of the
Squirrel.
Oh,
popularity.
okay. Yeah. Okay. Nice
And
tack.
second, and like I said, it's that shuffle beat. Um, to me, it's the other extreme for a shuffle beat would be Tears for Fears. Everybody wants to rule the world. Now there's a shuffle beat that works.
Oh yeah, because you got that
Yeah,
pumping synth
yeah.
bass coming with it, like boom,
So
boom.
you've got you know two examples of when it how it works and how it doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And and yeah, okay. So the keyboard riff is, like you say, maybe the strongest point. For me, that's the most irritating point because it's just so repetitive.
Well, like I
Yeah.
said, it's like, even with the keyboard part, it almost seems like they found like Stock Aitken and Waterman were these, these pop producers in the 80s who were accused of using, preset keyboard, patches and stuff and,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
to me it just sounds like with Walk of Life. Okay, oh, this sounds good. Oh, press B2 on the Casio, and like we'll just use that, right? And it'll work. It'll work. Just okay, we're recording. I mean, and that was it. I mean,
And I would bet
most of the
anything that that song has been played hundreds of thousands of times in football stadiums.
it's still played on FM rock radio today. I don't know why. There are a bunch of other songs on the album that are fantastic. It's
Mhm.
just again, it's this is the pimple on the butt of humanity. I cannot stand it. And
Yep.
So why are pimples on the butts of humanity so popular? That's
I
the question because, for me, I'm like you. I would have been like, if you put Why Worry out there, the correct extended version,
yes.
that would have been like a monster. But no one listens to radio the same way I do. You
Well,
know, 99.9% of the public would be like, this is boring. Get it off the air. But yeah, da, 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 da,
it's
the
bouncy, it's rhythmic, it's light in terms of the sound of the keyboards. It's just again,
mhm,
it sounds like it's a preset keyboard part
yeah.
that they just used. And obviously it's probably not, right? Obviously it's not, but what it comes across as to me, very trivial, very trite, lightweight, flimsy. It doesn't hold its weight. The rest of the album is fan bloody tastic. This is
Oh
the
yeah.
this is the one pimple on the butt of humanity that stands out. So,
Well, by now the public has been conditioned to it because it's played so much.
oh yeah, I mean, if I go in the
In
van
the
right now and I turn on, K97 in Edmonton, which is the rock station, I'll bet you this is like they're running their, 500 top classic tracks over the Labor Day weekend. They're going to be playing Walk of Life at some point. They've already done it.
and in general, the public um, they like what's similar to what they've heard before. They don't want anything new. Look
No,
at television, look at movies.
no,
They
I know,
just they just want more of the same pap.
I know, I know. All right, guys, pimples on the butts of humanity aside, we have come to the end of our Close But No Cigar Part 2 segment.
But we were just getting to the real interesting
There's-
part. We're evolving into the get off my lawn part of the show.
Oh, really? Okay,
Come
I didn't know
on.
that. I'm time
A whole
sensitive.
nother
I'm watching
episode.
the time. I'm watching the time for you.
I thank you. I appreciate that.
that's
And
And
get off my lawn.
there we go. Get off my lawn. Yes.
that's
So,
another
ladies and
video.
gentlemen,
Hmm.
we have enjoyed this episode.
Too much.
Side
No,
note,
not too much.
I've come to realize that doing short episodes with these two gentlemen is impossible because we have too much fun together. It's true. We try to edit down and edit ourselves, but it's not bloody possible. So,
No.
once you've watched this, please put down in the comments below what your next top 5 albums are. Could be 5, could be 10, could be as many as you want. Those
Almost
albums
perfect.
that, in our opinion, are close but no cigar. If but for that one track, that one quote unquote pimple on the butt of humanity, as I like to call it, would be a perfect
You do
album.
like to call it that. You
Well,
do.
you know what? It just kind of fits with this kind of theme that we're doing here. It just fits.
Well,
So,
sure.
It's part
um,
of the drinking game.
there you go. There you go. I still have my coffee here. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, please put your comments down below. Again, we'd like to get a dialogue going with these episodes. And just a quick note again, I'd like to thank everybody who's watched the 31 Perfect Albums series. We really did enjoy doing it. We had a fun time with Bill. The four of us got along very well with doing this series. And we are brainstorming as to doing another one very soon for you guys because we've been asked to do that. And yeah, I enjoy doing videos with these two gentlemen very much, and hopefully we will continue into the future doing these videos. So for Jim Burker and Ken Cheshire, I'm Armando Venditti signing off. Please have a good, safe Labor Day weekend. Party, but don't party too much. Work tomorrow, right? So, Please, again, click like and subscribe and hit the notification bell to keep yourselves on top of any new content that are coming up. We are brainstorming for some new episodes. We've got some new ideas brewing, and we're going to bring them to you as quick as we can. All right. In a very professional manner, of course. So we'll say goodbye for now. We'll see you
Goodbye
soon
for now.
with another video. Goodbye, everybody. And
Say goodnight, Gracie.
good night, Gracie. And we'll see you
Thank you.
soon with another video. Bye for now.